Good morning, gang. It's my still in my library. I wish I could stay here. I love it. See all the cars passing by in our little cul-de-sac? It's really kind of nice. All right, we're still in Hebrews, and today we're going to continue the story of Jacob. We're going to find out why God thought he was so faithful he should be in Hebrews chapter 11, the Hall of Faith. All right, but we're starting back off in Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to start this time in verse 21. But let's back up and remember, Jacob has had a dream. Okay, he dreamed there was a ladder. Its top was in the sky and its foot was on the ground. Next time you see Papa and Mama, us, me, you'll have to ask us to sing you the song about Jacob and the ladder. We have a great song that we sang in college that gives the whole story of Jacob and his ladder, and it's really, really important because it tells of this wonderful dream that he had and that he saw God and God made him promises. So it probably wasn't a dream. It was probably God revealing himself. So there Jacob is, and he's had this dream and he wakes up, and let's pick it up. Let's see. Where am I? Genesis chapter 28. We ended in verse 15. Verse 16 says, "And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, 'Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. I slept here all night, and I didn't realize that this was a special place.' And he was afraid and said, 'How dreadful is this place! This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.'" He had seen God that night, and he rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillow and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. Important that you might remember that. Bethel, Bethel, Bethel. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, "If God will be with me," and God had promised to be with him, "and will keep me in this way that I go, I will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give thee a tenth unto thee." Okay, so Jacob vows a vow. He says, okay, God has said he's going to be with me. I shouldn't be fearful of Isaac. Okay, now he's already older. He has children, he has a wife, and he's still afraid of his brother, and he's still far, far from home. But after that dream, Jacob is changed, and he says, okay, if God's going to be with me, I'm going to go home again. So let's find out what happened. He vowed that vow, and he decides to go home. Chapter 32 is where we're going next. Chapter 32, Genesis 32, verses 9 through 12. 32, 9 through 12, and it says, "And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which said unto me, Return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee, and I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I'm become two bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite thee and the mother with the children." So here he is still fearful, but he's gonna go home, and he prays to God, and he reminds God about the promises of Bethel. Okay? He reminds God, now you promised that you were going to be with me, so I'm going to go home, and you're going to keep your promises and not let Esau kill me. So he decides to go home. So what does he do? First of all, he sends his family first. He says, okay, here's all my cattle and all my tents and my provisions, and he sends loads of stuff on up to eat with to Esau. but he sends it with his wife and his children and all of his servants. He's still fearful. Yeah, that's a problem. But he sent it, and then he's left all by himself. And he waits an extra night before he heads off to go back home. And he thinks, well, maybe Esau won't hate me so much. Maybe he'll be appeased by me sending all these provisions and my family on, and he'll be happy to see me. He still wasn't trusting God, was he? No. But God still took care of him. In Genesis chapter 32, verses 24 through 31, we read another story about Jacob. Jacob has a very interesting life. Verse 24, and it says, and Jacob was left alone. And there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Okay, so it's nighttime. Jacob's getting ready to go to bed, and there's this man. And they start wrestling with each other. And Jacob was left alone, and he's wrestling a man with him until the breaking of the day. So all night long they're wrestling. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Okay. So now Jacob's not in a good place. His hip is out of joint. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. Jacob's still looking for the blessing. So he asked the man, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. Because this is another event of God with Jacob. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast power with God and with man, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed thee. And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. He was wrestling with God all night long. And God touched him in his joint. And from then on, he limped. And he changed his name. God changes us. He changed his name from Jacob, the supplanter, to Israel. That was a very special name to God. And he passed over Peniel. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. It means he was limping from that day on. So, wow. Jacob goes from one night all alone in Bethel, where he's sleeping on a pillow of a stone, and then he goes to this next place and wrestles with God through the night, and God changes his name to Israel, and he sends him home. Now, one last thing about Jacob, and that is found in Genesis 33. Let's just keep reading. Therefore, the children of Israel, let's read chapter 33. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came with him, and with him 400 men. There's my brother. He hates me, and he's bringing 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah and unto Rachel and unto the two of his handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hinder parts, because Joseph is his favorite. And he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. Let's see what Esau does. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. So did God keep his promise? Yeah, God kept his promise to Jacob. God took care of him, and God took care of him even though he was a conniving person, even though he didn't trust him, even though he tried to scheme his way through life. God took care of him, and God blessed him. Now, that doesn't really sound like a life of faith, And yet he's in the chapter of faith. I don't know that I would have done any better, because if somebody hated me as much as Esau had hated Jacob, I'd be running for my life too. But God blessed him, changed his name to Israel, and Jacob went home a changed man. Isn't it great that God still was merciful to Jacob, and he never forgot him? He always took care of him. He fulfilled his promises to the point that Jacob was in Hebrews chapter 11. He went on to have 12 sons. And the next one we're going to talk about is Joseph. Joseph was his favorite son, his 11th son. But we'll talk more about him next time. I hope you're having a great day. Know that I love you. Bye-bye.